La parole maintenant est à Monsieur Mounir Bouaziz, qui est actuellement vice-président Upstream International MENAS depuis septembre 2009. Monsieur Bouaziz est ingénieur de grande école arts et métiers et a son MBA from Webster University. Monsieur Bouaziz, la parole est à vous.
Good morning. It's really great pleasure for me to come to Beirut. Actually, I was reflecting on my flight last night. I have been visiting for the last 15 years, and I learned in my industry to be patient, so we'll continue to visit, and it's great to escape Dubai. Actually, I'm based in Dubai, where it's 50 degrees centigrade right now, and it's wonderful weather here. I'm really pleased that this event is taking place in a business school. So it's to echo what the speaker said, it's good really for the future generations to be involved in these type of debates. And when it comes to energy, and really that's the core of my story, you may see a drop in oil prices, but believe me, as the speaker said, al-alam atchan, so we need a lot more energy. And for me, working in this sector is really quite challenging and interesting. I will send you first a greeting from our legal department, but basically the summary is that if you make any investment decision in Shell based on what I tell you, it's really at your own risks. So what? Just to frame the discussion about the energy debate, the population is growing, but really that's not what's driving the demand. So we, in terms of humanity, we peaked at what I call the babies deliveries. So we'll stabilize at 9 billion people. But what is driving the demand is really the move from poverty to middle class status. And with the growth in wealth, really people are demanding more energy. There is also the urbanization. More and more people now living in cities, and there is a challenge in the design and the structuring of the future cities. And but what is also very challenging at the same time is that we have the climate change challenge. We're not doing well. We will exceed the 2 degrees global warming if we don't take bold steps and decisions right now. So between the beginning of the millennium and 2040-50, we expect the energy demand to double. And every form of energy will have a role to play. We also believe that hydrocarbons will still play a big role in the energy mix in the future. I was actually end of last week, I was in Vienna for the OPEC conference. And just for the oil production, the OPEC and even the International Energy Agency believe that we will need another 10 million barrels per day of capacity, of incremental production actually, by 2040. So that's about another Saudi for the next 20 years or so. And then of course in the oil and gas business, you have a natural depletion. So what's produced today is gone, and you need constantly to renew the potential. Renewables will play a role. Then we could see really big advances in that area. Dubai, for example, announced a record figure by achieving, they haven't built it yet, but at least contractually, solar power project where they can get the kilowatt hour for less than 6 cents. So it's really a premiere, basically, in the world. So we active in Ecole. We active in hydrocarbons, of course, but also in renewables. We have the largest. We are the largest producer and distributor of biofuel in Brazil, and we even started, as you could see here, introducing solar in our operations. This is a pilot project in Oman, in the south of Oman, where actually solar power is used to heat water, and you get the steam, and the steam is injected back to the oil field there to improve the productivity and recovery from these fields. But renewables will, as I said, will play a role, but we saw historically that for any new form of energy, to take 1% of the total mix, it will take really 30 years. So it's a long journey, and we still think, we could achieve between now and 2050, 30% of the supply from renewables. I visited China last year, and you all remember the stories around the Olympics about pollution and the air over there. And when I went there, it was actually beautiful weather, blue sky, sunshine, like we see here in Beirut. And I asked my Chinese colleagues, what are you complaining about here? Until they showed me this picture. And this is really from utilization of carbon, basically, of coal. And I believe here in Beirut, you had also your fair chance of similar problems by burning heavy fuel oil in power plants in populated area. So we believe that in Shell, and actually Shell, for the first time in 2000, about 2 years ago, we started to produce more natural gas than oil. And we see that the future demand, the future growth will be more on the gas side than really in crude oil. So gas has a lower CO2, which is important for the climate change challenge, especially for power generation. It's also abundant. So if you remember the story in the United States, I remember 5 years ago, the whole industry was gearing up to tackle the United States as a big importer of natural gas. What happened over a very short period, it turned to really what I call an island of self-sufficiency. United States now has more than 100 years of reserves. The gas prices dropped from $18 to now $2.5. It has really rejuvenated the whole economy over there, the industries, and lowered the CO2 emissions. And really, it's all because of innovation, just through the development of shale gas. We also think that the LNG, liquefied natural gas, is really a way of expanding the natural gas utilization. In our region, and Lebanon is part of that, there is what I call the Middle East gas puzzle. On one hand, the region has more than 40% of the total world gas reserves, but every country I visit in the region, with the exception perhaps of Algeria and Qatar, has a problem of natural gas supply. And the market in our region could be, as you could see from the graph, as big as the European market. But there is a shortage of supply for many reasons. So some countries, they underestimated the gas potential. Gas was seen in the past as a byproduct, which is cheap and sometimes not very useful. It's typical to what was said earlier on. Lebanon, it has prospects offshore, but nothing has been done to explore and try to find this gas. And countries like Iraq, they're flaring, what's sufficient to really supply many countries. So I need help with the slides here. What I was going to show you next is a picture of I was in Algeria beginning of the year, and we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first LNG cargo ever shipped. Shell was involved in the 60s with the development of the LNG technology, and that has been... So Methane Princess left Algeria to the UK, actually, for the first time 50 years ago. Now the technology has evolved in a big way. This is a floating LNG. This is a structure where you're supposed to to get the gas from the wellheads at the sea bottom. Processing, liquefaction, and storage is done on the structure, and then the ship will come and just to offload the product. To give you an idea about the size of this, and I had the chance actually to see it in the dry dock in Samsun yards in South Korea. It's half kilometer long, 500 meters long, 80 meters wide, and from the bottom to the top deck, to the deck there, it's about 80 meters. It's the largest floating structure ever built by mankind. Actually, it was in the dry dock, so I touched the bottom, and it would be another 25 years before any human being touches the bottom. And something like this, if one day, there's successful exploration in deep offshore in Lebanon, something like this could easily be implemented. And then the supply to the domestic market will come through really shuttling vessels of the required LNG volumes. Coming from Dubai, actually, I'm pleased that the region also contributed to this achievement, and the turret, which is this is about 30 meters diameter, has been fabricated in Dubai. So what is LNG? Perhaps I'll take 1 minute there. So it's really natural gas, which starts from production. So that could be the offshore prospects you have here in Lebanon. And then it's a process of taking that natural gas and cool it to minus 170 degrees. So it shrinks in volumes by 600 times. Then you can ship it for very, very long, to where the market is, for very long distances in these specially built ships. And then at the utilization end, you can regasify it, so you bring it to the ambient temperature, and then the liquid expands again and become natural gas, 600 times higher in volumes. And it can go to power generation, it could go to houses for heating and cooking, and then it could go, and I explain later on now, even into the transportation sector. What is making the LNG more available now and affordable, and actually I call it the democratization of LNG. In the past, it used to be only the big users and the Japanese, the Korean utilities. But now, because of the floating structure, you just need a standard LNG ship. You put on the back regasification unit, which is really just a heat exchanger to take the seawater, warm seawater, to warm up the LNG, and you get the gas to the power generation. This picture actually is from Jebel Ali in Dubai. What we see in the region is more and more utilization of the LNG. The first one is Kuwait, started many years ago. Actually, Kuwait, in the winter, the regas ship is not even there. It comes only beginning of the summer, and it stays there for the whole summer period because the demand is high, and then it leaves during the rest of the year. Now, Kuwait is very familiar with the LNG, and now they decided to build much bigger and permanent infrastructure in the country, and they are already in the contracting phase. Dubai was the second one in Jebel Ali. Jordan, which was, they were hesitating at the beginning, but lately really they got their act together. And this is an Aqaba. And the first LNG cargo was delivered only a week ago, actually, from Qatar. And the surprising one is Egypt. So Egypt was an exporter, actually, of LNG, and now they became an importer. And in a time record, they managed to build the facilities in Ain Sokhna, and there, as you could see, the regasification ship is already there. And Egypt will be using LNG in their domestic market for the first time this summer. Going elsewhere in the Mediterranean, we just concluded a deal in Malta. Very small volumes, but nevertheless it has worked. And a slightly different concept. So the floating structure is only used for storage, but the regasification part is onshore. It's in the harbor itself, and then it goes to power generation. Cyprus is also looking at similar concepts. Morocco is also desperate for LNG. Tunisia maybe one day. Bahrain. So really, everywhere in this region there is a need for LNG. And the question is, of course, when is Lebanon is going to start? Another example, Gibraltar. Again, very small place, small volumes, but instead of the regasification ship, really is used here standard equipment, skid-mounted equipment. These are bullet tanks. You can buy them ready-made to store the LNG. And these are the vaporizers. This is how you regasify the LNG, and it goes to to power generation and others. And then the delivery is just done over here. In fact, I really would like to advocate this as a solution the private sector could take in Lebanon. So, you know, the government will have time to develop the main FSRU. But something similar to this is really easily done, and it could already help with alleviating the energy shortages here. What we also see and you see, for example, a truck here is actually loading liquid LNG from the storage. So the LNG you could transport it also on the back of trailers. And then you can deliver it on the utilization side, so you don't need pipelines anymore. You just deliver LNG, small storage, vaporizers to get the gas, and you can really establish very quick solutions. What we see also is penetration of LNG into the marine sector. So big ships will be expected in the future to be fueled with LNG. Shell actually ordered an LNG, filler basically, so a ship which supply the big ones with LNG. And you could see here an example how the ship itself gets its LNG supply to go around the harbor and satisfy the demand. What we also see is more and more penetration of the LNG into the transportation sector. This really has started big time in the US and Canada. Obviously, there are always cost benefits. There is also environmental one, but surprisingly, there's also a reduction in noise. And you say, okay, is this really relevant? And there is an anecdote with a Dutch company. They collect actually rubbish from the houses. And then there are regulations. They cannot work at nighttime because of the noise level. And actually, by reducing the noise level, when they introduce LNG, they were able to really improve their productivity and do a lot more work than in the past. I'll skip this one. And this is the first retail station in Rotterdam. So you have the LNG storage here, and then a normal filling, basically, of the tanks. Again, the LNG is going to we try to tackle mining, river barging, and even railways. So to conclude, really, and I mentioned the energy challenge, the world is going through two races. One is, how do we make energy supply secure and available? And let's not forget this.